I don't understand.
Which part are you having trouble with?
Well, I can't be his guardian.
Well,
I mean, I can't.
well, naturally, I assumed Joe had discussed all this with you.
No. He didn't. No.
Sorry, I have to say I'm somewhat taken aback.
He can't live with me. I live in one room.
Well, but Joe has provided for Patrick's upkeep. Food, clothes, etc. And the house and the boat are owned outright.
I can't commute from Boston every day until he turns 18.
I think the idea was that you would relocate.
Relocate to where?
Well, if you
Here?
look, as you can see, your brother worked everything out extremely carefully.
But he can't have,
Yes.
can't have meant that.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How you guys doing tonight?
I'm alright. I'm tired.
Doing good. Doing all right.
Yeah.
Good.
And you?
I'm doing good as well. At least I'm trying to after watching this movie.
Bro,
Yeah.
I don't know why you make us watch something like this.
Hey, you said
I
I want to
did.
cry.
I did.
You picked this,
I want to
man.
be in a mood.
I did.
So I
man.
gave it to you. But
This does put you in the mood.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I also think it's kind of funny because our last episode being on Forrest Gump, it's kind of like one of those like slice of life movies where you watch this guy's story unfold before your eyes, right? And this movie kind of does the same thing, but it is just depressing.
It's like the opposite half, the other side of the coin.
yeah, like it's the side that they decide not to show with Forrest Gump, where it's
Yeah.
like life can be beautiful. This whole side is like life is pain.
Yeah, in Forrest Gump, you would see him run away from the bullies, but then here you would see him get caught by the bullies
Yeah,
Just wailed on.
and just
Yeah.
getting messed up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beat up by the world, beat up by everybody. So,
Everybody.
Beating
Yeah.
himself up mostly.
yeah, yeah. And I had been wanting to watch this movie again recently because one of the Instagram pages that I follow, the cinema pages, they posted the scene that is scarred into my brain from this film. And we'll talk about it a little later, but they posted it and I was just like, oh man, I haven't watched that movie in so long. And I remember it being like incredibly sad. And if I'm not mistaken, I had only watched it that one time when it came out and it won the Oscars that it did. And I never returned to it. And then I remembered it randomly because of that post and decided I wanted to rewatch it again. And then I found out you guys had never seen it.
Never.
So I wanted to get your guys' take on it because this ultimately ended up winning the Best Actor Oscar for 2016 as well as Best Original Screenplay. And this was in the same year that La La Land was in the running as well as Moonlight,
What, 2017?
2016. The movie came out in 2015. And we're talking about Manchester by the Sea. And it was written and directed by Kenneth Lonergan. And this is the first and only film I think that I've seen of his. I think he's only done 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no clue.
But yeah, this was also kind of the first film I'd ever seen where Casey Affleck is taking the lead role here. And yeah, I was kind of just taken aback by it because by the time I finished it, I was just like, man, that is sad. Like this whole movie was just sad. Like it made me think of that that Wojak meme where he's like sitting in the dark with the shadows like covering his face.
Like in completely.
It's just all like
yes.
like that. It made me think of that meme, and I was just like, that's me after watching this dude. Like, yeah.
So I looked up when it was because I was like, dang, really? But it was actually 2017. But
Okay.
look at this fool. He looks like this is Casey Affleck with his beard and stuff. He looks like Jared Leto.
That's what I was gonna say. Oh wow, he really does from that thumbnail. The craziest thing ever is I wouldn't look at Casey Affleck and be like,
That's Ben Affleck's brother.
yeah, I would never. Think
I would have
that.
never thought that.
They don't look
Look at this. I don't know if you can see it.
very
Yeah,
similar.
I know Casey. Yeah,
Doesn't he look like?
Doesn't he look like Jared Leto? Damn.
a little bit right there. You want to know something that boggles my mind because I don't see it.
Do it.
People tell me I look like that guy.
Not in that picture.
People
Well,
tell
maybe
me
when
I-
you had your long hair.
People tell me I look like Casey Affleck, and I'm like, I don't see it. And then they're like, yeah, you do. It's a good thing. And I'm like,
He's a good-looking guy.
I've been like,
Maybe
I
with
don't
your
see
long
it.
hair.
I don't see it. You
He
know?
kind of looks like from this angle, especially that one. He looked like. I mean, he looks just. I can kind of see the relation now that they stand next to each other.
Okay, but get this. Let's listen to some of the movies that came out that were nominated this year for Oscars, all right? We got Manchester by the Sea, Hacksaw Ridge came out that same year.
Keep talking about that movie.
La
yeah,
La
we need to
Land,
watch
I
it.
know.
Fences with
Yeah,
Denzel Washington,
Denzel.
Moonlight,
Viola Davis.
Hell or High Water,
Yeah, so
Nocturnal Animals. Yeah. There was a lot of movies that came out that year. That movie Hidden Figures.
Oh
The
yeah.
Jungle Book?
Yeah. Kubo and the Two Strings, Moana, Zootopia.
Kubo.
Right.
That's crazy.
Kubo.
There
what's that
were.
That's
a
the one I
lot.
was talking about. That's the one I want us to watch.
one? What's
Yeah.
Kubo?
It's
It's
a
a-
stop motion animation.
And it's by the studio. I forget the studio name, but they've done Coraline.
Isn't it like
Kino
Dude.
or
Annapurna? Or
No.
No?
It's I'm gonna have to Google it, but it's the same people who have done Coraline, I think.
Okay.
And Norm, Paranorman,
Oh yeah,
like that, like
yeah.
clay stop motion
Yeah,
type thing.
Lay. I don't know how to say it. It's Laika.
Leica or something.
Okay.
Leica.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Yeah, from Coraline to Kubo. Yeah.
Interesting.
Real quick,
Leica.
go watch Coraline in theaters next week.
I know remastered version's coming out.
Oh
Yeah,
really?
Just for one day.
Oh awesome.
It's for the anniversary. It's like the 10-year anniversary or something like that. I think.
That's exciting. I never got to see it in theaters.
Yeah, me neither.
No, not 10-year. I don't
Alexa
even know.
loves Coraline.
Yeah,
I think it's
so-
25 year.
It's 2009
Am I-
when it came
25 year. No way.
No. Am I crazy?
I,
No, I was thinking of.
I was gonna say that movie's not as old as me.
No, I
for-
was thinking
like-
of it's we were talking about this movie recently called They Live,
Oh yes.
and they are doing a 25 anniversary.
They
movie.
Live is
it's I know
I'm thinking
it's
of the director. I'm
yeah
losing his name.
The Thing.
Did the Thing, Halloween.
Why is he
His name's
escaping my
me.
mind?
I'm freaking losing it. I'm a horrible film bro.
The Thing by.
I'm losing it.
I'm losing.
Oh,
I'm
man.
gonna have to search that.
Yeah, look it up now because it's gonna bother me.
Okay.
And then whenever I hear it, I'm gonna be like, oh, yeah. He's an iconic horror director.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Come
I
on,
never.
Abe, we need you.
I still haven't watched They Live,
What
and it's
is-
one that I wanted to watch
Okay, hold
for a
on.
long time.
What am
Because I know it has that iconic quote.
John Carpenter.
Yes, dude. Gosh, man, why couldn't I think of that? It has that iconic quote where he says, "I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum."
Have you seen that? Because they posted a clip of it recently, and he's like, when you put
With
the
the
glasses
glasses on,
on,
he's got
they
the
all look
guns.
like.
Yeah,
They look so weird, man.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
How did we get onto this track?
I don't know. Talking about Coraline, and then we're talking about reissued movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so real quick, August 14th and 15th is when they're going to show it in theaters.
Crazy.
Interesting. Sounds like I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, I was about to say, hey, that's like you could surprise your wife on a date.
My girl.
I'm going to see that new A24 film. Gotta happen.
I
Which
want to
one?
watch. Look at me.
Talk to me.
Talk to
Yeah,
me.
talk to me. I heard it's
Dude.
good.
I heard
Yeah,
it's
I've
good
heard-
too, but
I've
I
heard
don't
it's
want to
good as
poop
well.
myself.
I've heard it's good. I've heard people saying it's scary.
Yeah. That's
So,
what I'm looking forward to.
I
Yeah.
don't. I maybe should I go watch it alone.
I
while
still
you
think
guys-
it's crazy the freaking Raka brothers
Yeah.
from
I know,
YouTube
we
have
talked-
directed and written it, man. It's
That's-
crazy.
props
to
to
think about
them
that.
though.
Yeah, no, seriously, that's what a like for everyone talking that greatly about your film. Like that's such a good break into the industry.
I feel like they follow their dream because I mean I feel like when someone goes into YouTube, they're like, dude, imagine making a movie after
Yeah.
all this,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like they're like fulfilling a dream. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
The thing that scares me about it is I go on the Regal app, and there's like I go to the coming soon tab, and it's not there. Like,
Oh wow.
where is it?
Interesting.
Oh no, it's in the now playing.
There you go.
Oh
All right.
my gosh.
Well, let's talk about the movie that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So, Manchester by the Sea is a Amazon Prime studio film.
Mhm.
And from what I understood, this was like the first streaming service movie to ever get nominated for like an Oscar, which is pretty cool in its own right. It's like
Yeah.
the first of its kind. But now like that's become such kind of commonplace, right? Like Netflix has put out Oscar-nominated movies as well as
Yeah, plenty.
Hulu and all these other things, right? So, the movie is about a uncle who ends up becoming the guardian of his nephew when his brother dies. And to not get into spoilers too quickly, he has to come back to the town that he once left to confront past trauma, and has to, endure a lot of it while he's trying to find out how he can get his brother buried and then also get his nephew to move back to Boston with him rather than living in Manchester by the Sea in Massachusetts. And we follow this guy's life and we find out how people handle grief. And it is a like painstakingly realistic movie. Like I cannot applaud the realism in this movie enough. It's kind of crazy. And that's all, thanks to the writing that Kenneth Lonergan, what do I want to say? That he contributes here to the script and to the direction as well because he directs it. But it's great. I remember really liking it on my first watch, and then I hadn't watched it in what feels like years. So I am excited to see what you guys were thinking about it. Have you ever had any exposure or knew about this movie before you guys watched it or anything like that beforehand?
I knew nothing about this movie. This is a complete new movie to me. I've never even knew it existed until you mentioned it.
Oh wow, okay.
And I'm excited to talk about it because this thing, it just makes you feel things that are I kind of wish you didn't.
Yeah,
or at that time, I don't know how to explain because I just don't want to talk bad about the movie. But you want to watch a movie, but then you're like, dang, and it just makes you think.
Yeah, that's life.
And literally it's life.
That's life.
Dude.
That's what all the people say.
It's true.
Start getting me dancing out here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was my first time watching it. I'm excited to see what Nick you have to say about it.
I mean, it's about grief. It's literally just about grief and the very real things that, two troubled souls kind of have to go through and live together with, and somehow kind of, it almost feels like they find solace in the midst of it between each other. But they still have to come to the reality of the situation and deal with it. It was good. I have been appreciating Casey Affleck a little bit more, especially seeing him in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I think he had such a presence in Oppenheimer for the little space that he was there, but his voice, I think, gives off I don't know, I just like his voice a lot. He was really
he has this
it's soft.
It's but it's raspy kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone's grabbing his throat.
I'm gonna go. It's 2 a.m. I'm here with my friends. We're just partying. I don't know what's wrong.
He's got
that's probably a terrible impersonation. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
I get what you're saying. I like Casey Affleck too.
Yeah.
And his acting skills are on full display in this movie.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else besides this.
Good Will Hunting.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is
he's
he
a
in Good
young
Will?
kid in Good Will Hunting.
Oh, good one. Of course, Ben Affleck's in that one too,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's crazy.
And I always think of the iconic scene whenever they get their sandwiches, and he's wanting it in the back, and Ben Affleck is like, "No, you give me money for the burger, and then you'll get your burger. Or guess what? We'll put your burger on layaway. Every day you come in here, you give your 30 cents, and you'll be one step closer to getting your burger." And he goes and then he gets mad at him and throws it at him in the back.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just thinking. I think this. I guess as an adult, then.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's different.
Hardly recognize him.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was.
He's good, man.
Yeah.
It was good.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking about the movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It is streaming only on Amazon Prime because it is a Prime movie.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that streaming platform, you could probably rent it somewhere, I'm assuming, or you can pop it in digitally or physically if you got it. I ended up owning this one because I totally forgot I bought it, and I went to my collection and I was like, oh, I do have it, and I pulled it out, bought it at Rasputin's for like $8. So I was, pull it up, pop it in, and went back through Manchester by the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't seen the movie, again, check it out. We're going to be going through some spoilers. This is a spoiler-heavy movie. Either pause it, come back, or do whatever you want to do. You're a sentient being. You can make your own choices. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. First off,
Favorite scene?
yes, I want to say something about just the favorite scene category in general for this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of hard to say what my favorite scene is because there are like no differentiations of like acts in the film.
No.
Like everything is so finely woven and meshed together that it feels like I am watching someone's like full lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm so enthralled by what's happening on screen and like I can't for a second look away to like type or not see what's going to happen. And this is also the type of movie too where shots kind of linger a little bit. Things happen like really long sequences or things that like you would kind of question like why is this in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Like and it's kind of to push that realism that the movie is striving for. So you get things where you're like, okay, I'm at the funeral, and now they just cut to a guy trying to silence a baby while there's a funeral going,
Yeah.
Or things where, someone is walking to a convenience store and it will, show him fully making sure that he's getting things from the store and then walking back and all that stuff. And there's a lot of, again, realism aspects here that really immerse us into this world. And I like it for that aspect. But it also feels weird saying that there are any favorite scenes here just because this movie all just feels like one connected thing.
Yeah.
And
it's also kind of cut up with the whole past and present type thing too, which kind of, it's like intercut in random time. So it's like,
but
it's non-linear.
It's non-linear, but I feel like something that I did notice. But when it cuts, it always returns back to the original cut.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And because it'll be like I want to think. There's a scene that I think of where he is doing something and he falls asleep, and then it goes to a cut, and then he wakes up, and then it's back to where he was.
Mm.
So there is some parts where it is linear.
Okay. So I'll say this, for the most part, a lot of what I wrote down for this film is all in the bro moment category. But I guess to talk about a couple of scenes that I can think of off the top of my head that are very notable. We can talk about why he is grieving.
yeah, for sure.
And so if you haven't seen the movie, or if this is something you're new to, Casey Affleck's character Lee, he used to be a family man. He was married to a woman named Randy, who's played by Michelle Williams, and they had a family with one another. And we kind of get these leanings that like Lee is kind of like a partier. He hangs out with his friends that are locals, and they drink till 2 a.m. and play ping pong with one another. And they're kind of, it's like a fishing town. So like everyone is either like a fisherman or, they work with their hands. It's like a working blue collar community type thing. Right. And so all these guys are together, and they are hanging out with one another, and there are, some alcohol involved, drugs involved, and stuff like that. And eventually Randy gets upset because girls are sleeping upstairs. Right. So she goes downstairs, tell everybody to shut up and go home. And so everyone eventually goes home, but Casey's still feeling good, right? Lee's still wanting to party.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to go to bed, right? He doesn't want the party to stop. So he ends up going to the convenience store to get some more beer and some other things, right? And he comes home to a home on fire, up in smoke, the flames
Engulfed.
ablaze, and the only person that we see crying or screaming in this situation is Randy. We don't see the girls, and eventually we come to find out that those girls died in the fire, and it was all because of Lee, really. And the kind of the way that the rooms are set up, right? They sleep in the downstairs, the mom and dad, and then the girls sleep upstairs. And whenever Lee left that night to go get his beer and just some other things from the store, he said that the heating hasn't been working, or that they can't run the heating because of Randy's sinuses, and that dries her sinuses out, and then she has to, suffer the next day or anything like that. So in order to keep the house warm,
Light the fire.
And you put on a fire on the fireplace. Only because of Lee's state that he was in, he wasn't thinking clearly.
He didn't put
and he didn't put a screen
Ugh.
in front of the fire. And
Which
somehow, some way, a log must have rolled out or something like that, and it caused the house to be engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
And it is so sobering and heart-wrenching when we see the morning come and they're picking through the ashes, and you see those firefighters pick up 2 body bags and leave, and then it cuts to Lee, and you see him just kind of break down, get weak in the knees, and his brother Joe has to hold him and is just trying to comfort him in any way that he can. And Randy has also just been bawling her eyes out and probably have gone into shock.
Right?
She
So
was. She was I don't know if she just didn't want him to touch her,
I think,
or
well, because
yeah,
at this point, I feel like it's enough to say that it was his fault.
yes, it was
It's his fault.
technically.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I think what I was assuming was she didn't want him to touch her because of what he had caused
What he did
and what he did.
yeah.
Because
It's
I mean,
safe to assume that. Yeah,
it's
for
sure.
100%. That's what I would do if someone did that to me. There's no way I want them near me, even to touch me. Those are. I think it's why.
Yeah.
But she's of course she's in shock too, though.
Yeah.
Right. So
This-
she ends up getting wheeled into the back of an ambulance, amateurly, might I add. Those guys struggle.
Yeah.
They
They
struggle.
freaking struggle.
Yeah. Which I guess I read that was actually
It was
an accident.
Yeah.
it wasn't
just
supposed to
left it
happen.
in.
And yeah.
So
And it-
funny.
Yeah,
Bless
thank you. The director decided to leave it in,
Yeah.
which honestly kind of adds, I think, to the realism aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's just whatever
Sometimes
happens.
everything is not gonna go the way that you plan. You're not gonna be able to get that patient in there right the first time, every time,
Yeah.
But yeah, from that whole sequence, we understand that this is the source of Lee's grief. This is why he acts the way he does throughout the film, and why people talk about him. Why people, whenever he comes into a room, say, "Is that Lee Chandler? What's he doing here? I don't want him around here." Type
He
thing.
killed his family, kind of thing.
Right.
That's tough.
And we find out exactly why he has not come back to this town since then, and that he has tried to escape this town. But because of his brother dying, who still lives in this town, and now having to take care of his nephew, he has to come to terms with what it was that he did, and also confront his grief probably for the 50th time, and relive it, unfortunately, because now you're in the same setting, you see all the same people, and they all know what you did, so now it's just you having to relive it again.
Yeah.
And
now your brother's dead.
yeah, on top of everything as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's tough.
from there, it goes into another one of my most notable scenes whenever Lee gets taken to what's, I believe, is a police station. And
he's recounting what happened.
yeah, and they're asking him to recount what it was that happened. And he starts telling them exactly, I had some friends over, there was alcohol and drugs involved, and we were being a little too loud. Randy come down and tell us to be quiet, so I told everybody to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to keep the party going. I was still feeling good, so I wanted to have a couple more beers before. And I left, but when I left a log on the fireplace, and I didn't put a screen on. And the house must have, went up
And
in
he even
flames by the
says
time
it.
I came back. It was 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, and it had to have happened while I was gone.
Yeah, and to be honest, I was so glad he said the time, because I thought about it. I was like, how the heck do you walk to the store and then you come back in his house, it's on fire?
Mm-hmm.
But then when he said 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, yeah, I could
Yeah.
see
It
it.
takes a minute.
But he even says when he's saying like what happened to the detectives and stuff, like, I thought midway, did I put the screen? And he second guessed himself. He said, no, I didn't, but it should be fine. And
Yeah.
that's what kind of hurt me, was like he thought about
He
it
even thought, yeah.
and continued to go,
Yeah.
and that's what hurt. To
Yeah.
hear.
And that also coupled with a previous scene where he mentions that he drank 8 beers in like a 7-hour sitting of fishing.
It's like 1.254 beers
Yeah.
an hour or something like that.
yeah, that like conveys to me
And he's
that
sober.
homeboy's got a problem. Like he has some sort of issue, right? Because he doesn't want it to stop. So then he goes to the store to get more and keep it going. There's some sort of
What if it's his
semblance
day off?
or imagery there. Are you really drinking 9 or 10 beers on your day off and it just being like, all right, got to go to work on Wednesday?
I don't know.
Like-
I think that's common for fishing. I'm not sure.
Maybe. I don't
What do you
know.
do? I mean, you just sit there and drink the whole time. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
live
I'm
that
not
world.
a part of
but-
that cold chat.
Yeah, but yeah, eventually he is in this police station recounting the events as to what happened. And one of the parts that kills me about this scene, I think that you said it did for you as well, Abe, was whenever I'm assuming like the fire chief or the fire marshal and the detective in the area tell him, okay, like, you're free to go, basically.
like,
Oh,
and
no.
he is like, what? I'm like, I can go. Are you serious?
Yeah.
And they tell him like, yeah, like there's nothing illegal about like forgetting to put a screen on your fireplace. It was just a
Simple mistake.
a horrible mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that we could put you in jail for. And the way that he asks, like, are you serious? Like, he's immediately feeling the guilt of like,
Dude,
I killed my family.
I belong
like
in
I
jail.
belong in prison.
Yeah.
I deserve to pay
for
for what I just did. And like this is insane to me. You're telling me that I can just go.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of has this like long shot of him kind of like coming to terms with him being free. And I'm assuming starting that survivor's guilt.
Oh yeah.
And he comes out, and this is the scene that has been scarred into my brain. And the one that was posted on the cinema page that I followed.
That was the scene. Holy crap!
That made me want to go rewatch it because I remember just being like, "Holy cow!"
That's the scene they put.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is kind
jeez.
of crazy.
yeah. But they Lee eventually walks out of that like office and comes out, and there's an officer talking to somebody with his gun still on his holster. Casey goes and reaches for it and immediately puts it to his head and tries to off himself right then and there.
Yeah.
But isn't successful, and then forgets, I have to cock it, and then gets 8 people on him,
Just rushing him.
tackling him, pulling the gun away from him. He's even screaming, please, please,
Yeah.
and is just trying to do anything he can to escape.
Yeah, and
The guilt.
this is the part that killed me, because I can't imagine knowing that you did something to end someone's life, and then someone saying you're free to go. Like, no human should be able to be like, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
Like, there should be some type of consequence.
Mhm.
But
I
he
mean,
doesn't.
like-
And then I feel like, I hate to say it, but the reaction he had, I feel like that's the same type of reaction I would have.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But what else is there to do?
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm not
you
saying
took the life of your own children.
your own
like-
children.
you had like maybe a 5 and 6 year old that are
Not only
no longer alive because of something that you did.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the
You know.
newborn.
Yeah, and a newborn child.
Yeah, that is tough. I think that's why I really appreciate this movie, is because it's really simple to sympathize with this guy.
Right.
But as we go on, to see him like not being able to connect with those around him is more. It's like that's where the complexity of his emotions come from,
Mm-hmm.
because it's sure he might have survived that night, but he really like died with them,
Yeah.
and he can no longer connect with anyone.
Right.
And I think that's part of the charm of this. I would say charm, but the part of the intrigue about this movie is not only seeing this very horrible act, but seeing how it completely transforms him.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what a lot of the scenes where it's in the past are showing you, because he's not like this completely different guy, but he's, especially when they're on the boat together with Patrick, who's young,
Mhm.
and they're trying to catch a fish, and they're talking about the shark attacks, and how he's got to throw the smartest kid off the boat, and, they're all happy together, and, they might have a crap life still, but he's got like a joy about him.
Mhm.
And even when the kids are alive, when, he's trying to smooch on her and she's sick on the bed, and
Yeah.
you just feel warm, and you see that he's got life into him. And then
Mhm.
after that, it's like he cracks a smile literally once
Yeah.
in the whole film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it just serves to show how grief-stricken this guy is.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I say from there, another notable scene before we move into any other categories is easily one of the best of the film. It's one that I think it's the most talk about whenever him, Lee, and Randy come across one another again. And we find out that Randy has since left Lee because of what happened to them.
She blamed him.
And we also find out that she's pregnant and is currently seeing another man. And they bump into one another, and Randy eventually says, hey, like, can we get lunch sometime? I've really been wanting to talk to you, and it's been nice seeing you around town and stuff. And she eventually starts saying, like, with all the time that's passed, I have done so much reflecting, and I treated you horribly. I said things that no human being should say to another, and I am so sorry for how I treated you. And Casey Affleck's character is just still so deeply rooted into that survivor's guilt that he is like, no, it's,
He can't accept it.
I can't accept it. Like I can't, this is not happening. You don't have to be sorry. I can't be here. We can't do this. And it eventually, Brandy eventually ends up telling him, like, I love you. I still love you. And I'm so sorry for how I treated you. And it was wrong of me. I should have been there for you, but I was too blinded by my own hatred and my own loss. I was dealing with loss in my own way, that I was too busy wrapped up in that I wasn't ever able to be there for you, and I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah.
And again, Lee is just saying, this
He just
this
can't take
will
it.
not work. This can't work. I can't do this. I gotta go.
He's dead.
And yeah, he just
Like,
he can't accept any semblance of a relationship or accept love from anybody else, because he can't forgive himself for what it was that he did. And the scene here alone is what I think possibly won Casey Affleck the Oscar for Best Actor, because the writing and the very subtle acting that comes from the both of them, where like it feels like this is a real conversation that I should not be listening in on. Like when you are speaking with somebody that you probably don't want to speak to too much, or it hurts to talk to that person, you are going to interrupt one another. You're going to stumble over your words. You're going to choke up when you talk. You're going to possibly tear up and not know what to say. And they do this with one another on screen, and it feels so incredibly real that like it's hard for me to believe it's acting. And I'm just like, man, this is crazy. It's insane to see these two actors just go do this on screen and not believe that there is like not some sort of history there or something, So, but yeah,
really grief-stricken.
right. So that's kind of the two scenes that I kind of wanted to talk about. Not necessarily any favorite scenes there, but they are the most notable throughout the film, I think.
One that I will say that we did talk about it a little bit was because I don't have any really favorite scenes either. It's just it was really hard to choose, and like you said, there's no acts in this.
Yeah.
It's all one consistent thing, and that's what I think it is too. But the scene that I want to talk about is they obviously have a boat, but this boat is a piece of crap. It's like the engine sucks.
Yeah.
They have to replace a part like every other week or something like that.
Yeah, I said the piston's going to go through the engine
Any
head
minute
now.
And Patrick really wants to keep it.
Right.
The son.
It's something of his dad's.
Yeah, he really wants to keep it, but Lee's like, all right, let's sell it. Like, we don't need it. It's going to be a lot to maintain, blah, blah, blah. But finally, I think it's starting to get to Lee's head that, like, Patrick's not going to let go of this. And he notices something. It's like a gun case. There's probably like 4 or 5 long rifles in there, whatever they are. And he goes, hey, what do you think about selling this and buying a new engine for that boat? And immediately, like,
It's a good idea.
Patrick, like, smiles, and you get, like, a glimpse of hope. Like, hey, now everything's all bad. Like, I just lost my dad. But then, like, and then you get this bright yellow engine in there in the engine bay.
Yeah.
And they crank it, and
yeah, it's one of the only scenes we see where Casey Affleck is smiling.
Yeah.
And it's because he went out of his way to do something for someone that he loved.
Mm-hmm.
And this entire time, up until this point, he's been telling him, this isn't realistic. We got to just sell it. We can't just keep sinking money into this thing. It's a lot to maintain, like you had mentioned. And but I think he notices Patrick's persistence and even like how far Patrick is willing to go to keep this boat. He says, like, you know, I already work Wednesdays and Thursdays for George out on the boat. Once I graduate high school, I'll get my license. I'll learn a route. I'll take people out on fishing trips, charter it, do whatever I can to keep this boat because it was my dad's. And I think he sees that persistence and how much it starts to mean to him, that it's at that point he, along with a couple other things in the film, that he decides, okay, let's do what we can to try to keep it. Yeah. And it means a lot to, I think, him, Lee, as well as Patrick.
Yeah, I think it means a lot to both of them.
Yeah.
It's the boat they grew up on, pretty much.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because I think it was his father's, too.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was just a nice scene. In the midst of all this chaos and all this sadness and all this grief, you finally get to see a scene that's just so heartwarming and just like, yes, like they gotta win finally.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it because, man, I'm sad.
Yeah.
I'm sad, bro.
This whole movie, yeah.
I want to be happy. That's probably one of the happy scenes there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the favorite scene category. Let's move into some best quotes, which I think are also going to be spare.
Yeah.
Like there's not a ton.
No.
I only wrote down one because I laughed at it real hard. And it was in the beginning of the film whenever it's showing that he's doing like handyman work around these apartment complexes
the lady
and
on
stuff.
the phone. Was it the lady on the phone?
Yeah, and he comes in and she's like talking about why she can't take a shower and all this stuff. And she keeps talking and saying things and he goes, I don't give a F what you're doing, Mrs. Olsen. I'm just here trying to fix the freaking leak. Like, and she immediately is like, you cannot talk to me that way.
Yeah.
Get out of my apartment, and all this stuff. And
he's like, you're blocking the entrance. I can't get out.
Yeah.
And he said it like,
she's so weird. Was she trying to hit on him though? Because she's like, are you saying you want me to shower right now?
Yeah, like, it kind of felt that way a little bit, but
and she's got like she's kind of
wearing a little bit of like
It felt like one of those scenes where it's like
and I think that is shown to even kind of push further the narrative that he is just never going to be ready for any sort of relationship ever, because if it seems like a woman's hitting on him, he's not picking up on it. He's not going to reciprocate. That woman, like very audibly on the phone, says, "Have you ever had fantasies about your handyman?"
Oh,
you know,
and he's listening.
And he hears her, like, and is just like, "Okay, see ya. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye." You know, Like, it just, again, when you think about the whole movie in context and you think about these little scenes that happen before we know why it is that he's acting the way that he does, you know.
Yeah, I do feel bad because I put in a bromate, and I'm just going to say it now, was bro has no riz. I said that, and
there's a reason for why.
and then I get the reason why, and I'm just like,
You talking about at the bar where the girl spills the
beer on him?
Yeah.
I was like, oh. That was good, though. That was smart.
Yeah. Well, what about, since we're getting into bro moments, because that was my first one, what about whenever Lee punches those guys at the bar? Those, like,
Dude,
business guys.
Yeah,
I
they were
thought
like,
two
why
different
you
things.
looking at me?
Yeah, he's like, do you know me? And they're like, oh, no. And he goes, then why are you looking at me if you don't know me?
I thought very
And then it
different
just
was going to
started
happen.
freaking, bah, start fighting.
You thought he was... Did you think that he was
Yeah.
flirtatious?
Yeah, I thought he was going to be flirtatious, and I thought they were going to do something.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. Do you know why? It's because I watched a movie a couple days ago, and I cannot expect anything anymore from any movie.
Oh my gosh.
You started. We all partook in watching a film that came out in 1997 called Funny Games.
Yeah.
No,
That-
but really, I did not expect him to hit those fools. I really thought he was going to be flirtation and was like, I don't know, because you said sad, and this is not something that type of sad that I wasn't thinking of. I don't know. I was not thinking of death when he
Okay.
said sad.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't think about he was going to punch him.
Okay. Yeah, when he clocks those dudes, it took me by surprise. I forgot.
There.
It also shook me because he was looking at the girl that spilled the beer on him.
Yeah.
So I also thought he was going to try to do something to impress her to win her back.
Oh.
Okay, I see.
But
You
I
didn't notice the choreography there
No.
when he goes to punch him and it doesn't look like it connects at all.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, Lisa and I were like, and we rewound it and watched him do it again, and it looks so incredibly like when someone puts their hand right there and you go to slap them,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear the noise, but it's nowhere in the vicinity where they'd get hit.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of it has that same vibe to it. And
Oh,
I was like, oh no.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't
Okay.
know if it was. I don't know what it was.
All right. What else have we got in bro moments?
I just
have-
straight up said the house burning down.
The
Oh,
house,
wow.
100%.
Okay.
That freaking sucks.
What about whenever Joe ends up eventually dying, Lee's brother, and
I
Lee
thought,
goes to the house, to their house and where Patrick lives, and he brings his girlfriend over, which is homegirl from. They both are in Moonrise Kingdom, which is crazy to me because I see her and I'm like, "You're the girl from Moonrise Kingdom. That's crazy. You're all big now. What the heck?"
all grown up.
Yeah. We find out that he's dating this woman, and he comes up to Lee in his bedroom where he's staying, and he's like, "Hey, is it okay if I forget her name? He's like Sandy stays the night or something like that. My dad used to let me, so it
Why
should
you
be
asking
fine."
me?
And he's like, "Yeah, okay, then why you're asking me if your dad says it's okay?" And he's like, "I just I don't know, just figured I'd ask. Hey, if it comes up." And her parents ask, "Can you let her know that she sleeps downstairs? Just, if the question ever arises or something like that." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And then, it eventually kind of catches on and is like, "Is this the part where I tell you you're supposed to wear protection or something like that?" And he was like, "I already had that talk with my dad. We don't need to do that." And then he says, "Just let me know if we're making too much noise." And I was like, dude, bro.
He did say he was joking, but
Yeah. I was like, that's an insane thing to say to your freaking uncle. Like, that's crazy.
I do want to talk about the band because the band is a bro moment in general.
Oh, yeah, they suck.
They
do
suck.
are awful. What's even the name of them?
Stenturion? I don't know.
Centurion. I think it's Centurion, but it's not with a C because you know how you can spell Centurion.
Stenturion? I don't know how to say it, but they're bad. And that's okay because it's their first band. They're learning.
What's the song she sings?
I don't even know. I think all I remember was I.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they say after that, but what about when we find out that Lee is going to be Patrick's guardian? And he
At the
initially
lawyer
yeah,
scene?
and he initially has so much hesitancy
So I
towards
can't
it,
do it.
and is like, I can't do that.
No.
Give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And
There's nobody else.
Yeah, the lawyer is like, Joe wrote specifically in his will that you will be the guardian, and that he has taken into account like
You're gonna move
moving
here.
costs for you to move here, and he even set up like a fund for you to like withdraw from, so that way you can like have a little bit of time to find a job and all this stuff here. And he was
That's
like,
crazy.
I can't do this. This is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole the whole house burning down sequence, as well as pulling the officer's gun.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Another moment for me was Patrick meeting his mom.
Yeah.
That was weird.
It was
Yeah.
very weird.
Very
It's-
strange.
I was
Yeah.
uncomfortable by her.
Ferris Bueller jump scare too, dude.
When? Oh, for the
Matthew Broderick is the husband.
I knew he looked familiar. I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? And then he's like, he even emails him afterwards too. I was like,
Yeah, and it's like I can't. If we ever want to visit, reach out to me instead.
why?
I think it's because the mom also is dealing with her own things and abandoning her kid.
Yeah.
And you know what my theory was during that whole dinner sequence was whenever she excuses herself was
She's like,
so that way she
relapsing or
could go have a
something?
drink.
Oh.
You know, and we find out that she was like an alcoholic and possibly abusive, and you know she treated Patrick poorly whenever he was a kid. And then we see that she has this whole 180. She's like, you know,
Nice Christian woman.
yeah, and she married this nice Christian man, and you know,
He's so weird.
yeah, they're living like a totally different life.
Oh,
and,
that's so awkward.
you know,
man.
whenever they sit down with one another, I think she's like starts kind of having those like, you being here is like making me think about my inadequacies as a mother
Yeah.
and all this other stuff, and it's making me want to drink or relapse or something
and
like
the
that.
the way she's handling it too is kind of like she's like hoping for a reality that is non-existent.
Yeah.
Like she's like, oh, you don't have to be so proper here. I'm your mom. Like,
yeah.
but you weren't there for him. It's gonna be weird. It is
Right.
weird. Don't pretend like it's not weird.
Yeah,
Don't pretend like nothing happened. Otherwise, it's gonna be weird. And
Yeah.
it is.
exactly.
Um,
What about whenever we hear that Joe can't be buried until the ground softens?
Dude,
in the freezer.
I didn't think that was. I was like, is that legal? And then I was reading in the facts that that happens in some places.
Yeah,
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, and it's not like okay to go in with like a backhoe, you know,
No.
and dig it out, because then you start disturbing all the other graves,
Yeah.
and grave sites, and yeah,
I guess they have like a steam shovel that you can use, but older cemeteries don't allow.
It's
that.
huge. I'm looking at a picture. Imagine this thing, like trampling over all of the graves. See what I'm saying?
I don't like.
So it only makes
I never
sense.
look at Wikipedia. I'm just gonna look up steam shovel pictures.
It's
That's-
like a whole contraption. It looks like a crane.
But
It makes sense.
that is crazy because I've never heard of that.
yeah, and it's a bro moment because it ends up being a point in the film later where Patrick ends up having an anxiety attack
Mhm.
when he wakes up early, I should say, wakes up in the middle of the night to get some sort of snack or something, opens the freezer, and a ton of meat falls out, and he starts putting it back in, and as he's doing that, putting that meat in the freezer, coupled with him talking about how he doesn't like the thought of his dad being in a freezer, kind of clicks for him, and he starts having this panic attack.
Mhm.
And it's one that is a bro moment, but it's also very visceral and real in showing you like what it's like to have a panic attack and how isolating it can feel, and like and just like feeling like you just can't catch your breath, like you're gonna die any minute, and it's tough
Mhm.
to say the least. Couple other bro moments for me before we wrap this up. I mean, finding out that Patrick's a cheater, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, two girls, two girlfriends.
that he's freaking has a girlfriend, and then he plays in this band, and he also is trying to sleep with the singer of the band.
Yeah.
That's
My gosh.
yeah, pretty wild.
What does he call it? It's just basement work right now.
Yeah, something like that. The last one that I have as well is finding out that Patrick's going to live with George and Lee's going to go back to Boston.
Yeah. He's gonna
And-
get adopted by him.
Yep, and that at the end of everything, all that they've been through, Patrick is going to end up not staying with Lee, and it's one of those things too where you don't get that perfect storybook ending where oh, they live happily together ever after.
Nope.
It's one of those things where Lee I think in that scene he says, I can't beat it. And I can't stay here. I can't continue to wallow in this grief and be confronted with it every single day
Yeah. It's too
by
much.
people that know all the time. I have to get away from here, and I'm sorry. You don't want to be in Boston. I can't be here. You've just got to stay here. Georgia's going to adopt you, and that's just how it's going to work.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, my last one was fixing the boat. That's it.
Okay. Well, if that's it for the bro moments, let's move into some facts with the bros.
Yeah. To make this movie, actually, I thought it was going to be a lot less, actually. Because I didn't think they used, like, a lot of effects or anything, so I thought it was pretty practical for the most part. But it was actually $9 million to make it. Opening weekend, it made $256,498. For a gross for U.S. and Canada was $47.6 million.
Wow.
And gross worldwide was $78.9 million. So
Wow.
it made its money.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a nice little return.
Oh, really good return.
Seriously. Yeah, I had mentioned a little bit earlier that the film won 2 Oscars. Won Best Actor for Casey Affleck for the role that he played, as well as Best Original Screenplay. And it was also nominated for a couple other big categories, but these are the winners here.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you were wondering if the director makes a little cameo, what he does, he's the guy that kind of heckles them by saying, "Oh, great parenting." As you hear freaking Casey Affleck saying, "I'm going to punch you in your face." He's like, "Oh, wow, great parenting." And then they get on to him and he's like, "You get the out of here, you suck."
Yeah.
That's the director right there.
Yeah, another one that I thought was pretty crazy as well. This was apparently a moment that kind of surprised everybody on set, but Casey Affleck unexpectedly started crying during the morgue scene. It wasn't originally written in the script for that to happen, but because of his reaction, Kenneth decided that he was going to keep it in the film, and ultimately is, I think, one of the more like poignant parts of the film as well, and
Yeah,
just showing
I
you
hate
it's
that
just hard to deal with. So.
Yeah, because I can't imagine just anyone just going to the morgue and just saying, "Yeah, that's them," and identifying a body, because that's essentially what they're doing.
Yep.
And it's that part just made me like, I almost wanted to skip it, because it's just like, I don't want to do that. I can't believe you're gonna have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It sucked.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was pretty cool, and I kind of wish it was, and I may Timothy Chalamet auditioned for the role of Patrick, and I wish he got it.
No, he goes on to do
Interstellar.
Yeah, he's in Interstellar.
Yep.
Which,
For what? 5 minutes?
well, yeah, as a little kid.
Yeah. Another interesting fact I thought was, when I read this, I was kind of like, "What? What? This is wild. This is blowing my mind." But apparently, according to an interview that Kenneth Lonergan was a part of on the publication DP30, the idea for the film didn't originate with him. The idea being that there's the core of a character going back home to take care of a family member after a death. It was actually pitched to Lonergan by Matt Damon and John Krasinski as a script, with Lonergan eventually writing and then Matt Damon coming in to direct. But because of scheduling conflicts with The Martian that came out in 2015, Damon couldn't direct the film or star in it. And he was considered for the role of Lee that Casey Affleck would eventually be cast in. So, because of these conflicts, Lonergan was then given free reign as a writer-director for the project. And then Damon and Krasinski, I think, came on as producers.
Yeah, executive producer.
Yeah.
That's
which
wild.
I thought was crazy. I
Mhm.
would have never thought that.
Me neither.
Yeah, another one that I thought was pretty wild. Again, Kara Hayward and Lucas Hedges both appeared in Moonrise Kingdom. Her character actually like stabs his character in the back with like safety scissors in the movie, and now they like play a couple whenever they're a little more grown up, which I thought was kind of funny. But
This movie was shot in 32 days. Pretty quick.
yeah, that is
A
fast.
month.
But again, there's no like, it's all pretty practical.
Yeah,
There's no big effects. There's no.
It's probably like just getting it nailed down with the
the takes.
acting, the
Yeah.
takes and all that.
Yeah, the last one that I have here, which I thought was pretty crazy as well. I think it would have ultimately added to the length of the film, but I think it would have hit home harder on like the actual mental state of Lee, and I think that probably could have been maybe a point where more emotion could have been shown. But there were apparently a few scenes cut from the film that involve the aftermath of the tragedy that Lee goes through. And the scenes that are not shown involve Affleck being talked to by his brother in the hospital and ultimately being put on suicide watch in the hospital.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I kind of wish they would have left it in
Me too.
a little bit, but
Yeah,
ultimately
I think it
didn't.
would have brought a lot more emotion.
Yeah. But that's it for facts for me.
Yeah, that's it for me as well.
Okay. What didn't work for this film?
Yeah, hitting off it. As good as I think Casey Affleck did, I think it was just a little too subtle for me. I don't know. I wasn't really able to connect with his character a lot. So when he was going through, like, he was just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. He just, like, I didn't have any emotion at all. I could really sympathize with the situation, but like when he cried, I was like, it's not as, I don't know, I just don't feel it as much as I should be. And I just think it's like, I don't know, he's too like, it's too subtle for me to really care.
Okay. Do you think it's because you're maybe more used to the grander,
I think so.
like acts or, outward expressions of grief?
I think so. I've never really gone through a situation like this, but I think in a situation like this, I'd be more prone to like crying and just like really relying on people. So when I see someone who's just like very
Subdued.
Yeah, and I think another thing with it too is like his arc is extremely stagnant. So it's like not only is he this like real subtle acting, it's that through basically the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I thought he might have like a subtle arc of rebuilding. Like I thought the whole boat was going to be a big old metaphor for like him trying to stay afloat on the water. Like that's the whole movie is like you're just trying to stay afloat, doing odd jobs, trying to distract yourself all the way. But just like the boat is, the literal heart of the boat is dying as our main character is dying.
Mm.
And then I was like, but he's going to fix the boat. Maybe this is like a part where he has like, rather than just that little smile, like I think he's going to have a slight connection with someone.
Mm.
I thought it might have been like an arc where you start real low, you go up, and you could even end even lower.
Mm.
But it kind of just like goes like this, and it's a small little bump, and it continues to go. And I was like,
Yeah.
I want more. I want a little bit more.
Yeah.
Even with like the whole past scenes too with the mom, I think that's just it's way too subtle for me to care.
Mm.
Like we get one scene where the mom is passed out naked on the couch, and I guess there's dog poop that he steps in,
Yeah.
and then he covers it. But like, it's too subtle. And when the mom comes back in, I'm like, I don't know you or care about you.
Yeah. And I think that's. Yeah, I understand where you're coming with the subtlety of things, because the movie tries to hit these beats of realism like to the T.
Yeah.
And life is subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Life isn't the way movies portray them. And that's kind of the hard part, right? Because we get primed with movies and the way that things should be and character arcs and stuff like that. But like genuinely, sometimes people don't have an arc.
Yeah, it's just
And like that's them.
you just grieve and you die.
Yeah, and like and one of the things that I really do appreciate about this movie, which we'll hit on later, is just kind of the portrayal of grief and how it isn't a straight line. Like you can have good days and all this stuff, but ultimately, at the end of things, you're still find yourself back at square one sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's a process, and you can go. I think there's talked about that there's 5 stages of grief.
It's
you
like
don't
denial.
you don't hit all of
anger.
those
All at the same time.
Yeah, and you don't hit them linearly. Like you can hit denial and then go to acceptance and then back to denial and anger. And like you can hit 1 and then go to 3 and then go to 2 and then back to 3 and then 4 and then go back to 1. Like, it's not a linear process.
Right.
And I think that that's something that is hit on a lot throughout this movie as well.
For sure.
But one thing that doesn't work for me, I think, is the pacing of the movie. It does go incredibly slow.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, just after watching Oppenheimer and that being a 3-hour film and being like, man, that didn't feel like 3 hours because of how enticed I was with the film. And then watching something like this, I was like, man, this feels like it is going at a snail's pace. It's slow. And it's not to say that I don't like slow films. I do like a slow burn. When it comes to a film every now and then, I'm a fan of that stuff. I'm a fan of build up and stuff like that. But I think ultimately it does come off a little too slow. And I think that it's done intentionally, right? There's realism portrayed there in the film, and I think it's kind of almost done to a fault. Is another one of my criticisms. Just because there are some portions where it feels like, why do I need to see this? But then I remember that I don't get to ignore those little details in life, So I also admire that the director pays so much attention to things like that, but then I'm kind of like, maybe there should be a line, like
I get you.
type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same. As far as
I don't want to say it like this, but to me, I didn't find nothing necessarily wrong with the movie. But, like, I just felt like I was just watching nothing.
It just didn't, like, grasp you.
Yeah, like I did. Don't get me wrong. I felt emotion. I saw what they're going through. Like I couldn't imagine going through it myself. I felt those emotions, but I'm just like, dang, like, what am I watching? Like,
Yeah, I get you.
yeah.
but like I don't see nothing wrong with the movie. Like I really don't.
Sometimes just movies just don't hit. Yeah. That's okay.
It
feel.
hit my feelings.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Okay.
All right.
Well, anything that doesn't work?
No,
Still.
my grievances are out.
All right. Well, let's talk about what does work then.
Immediately, I love the structure of the film. I love the scenes, like the establishing shots of like Manchester when they're going by. I'm a big fan of like these 5-second clips cut together, and they're all real like sharp distinctions between the scenes. Like it'll be of it's like the camera zooming into onto the house, and then it's the power lines, and then it's like this real big landscape of the water and then of the boat, and it's like these captivating, beautiful vistas. I love that part of this. The whole cinematography for this I think is great.
Yeah. I agree.
There's beautiful still.
It's beautiful.
I love it. Even when it comes down to the scene too of like people or the scene where it's like we can think about the burial, or we can think about the people coming in to like saying, oh, hi, how are you, and all that stuff, or I'm sorry for your loss, where it's just like this operatic music in the background, and you don't hear anything else but this like beautiful music.
Yeah, it's just all like choir.
Yes.
I love it.
Love
the hearing
that.
just like
Love it.
even the opening of the film. That's like an ever-present theme throughout it. Is just kind of that choir. It kind of feels like, I don't know how else to describe it, but like Wes Anderson.
A little bit.
like
a little bit, yeah.
But it's great, and I really think it serves the movie well.
Yeah.
In the instances where it does play. I think specifically of that scene whenever they are at the funeral and there's no dialogue.
None.
But you can tell like the feelings that people are feeling just based by their faces, and then it's just this music is playing in the background, and it's beautiful.
Great. That's the one thing I walked away from this film thinking like, gosh, those scenes are beautiful. When they're on the boat.
Yeah.
That blue, I love it. And it just it's a kind of movie that like no matter the subject, it just feels like overall comforting.
Yeah, Alexa said the same thing.
I don't
which
know
is
why.
So interesting.
It just feels comforting to me.
Yeah, she said the same thing, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Again, to hit on the music just one little bit, which I liked this aspect of it. I had no choice but to kind of describe the music as like calming, but also melancholy. Like if that can be a thing. you know, where something feels like it's like calming and relaxing, but also kind of sad,
Yeah.
you know, and that's kind of how I can describe the music. And I think it
I can
again,
tell you something that's exactly like that right now.
what
Play me anything by Minecraft.
Minecraft, the Minecraft soundtrack.
No, literally. there,
Dun, dun,
there's
dun, dun,
Mice on Venus.
yeah.
Minecraft. Minecraft can make me calm, but also I can be sad as heck listening to that music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. Also, to hit on what we did enjoy about this film, I think the writing is really good. Here.
I totally agree with you.
The writing makes everything feel believable.
Yeah, the dialogue is incredibly believable. Like writing in sequences where you're interrupting one another.
Oh, it's chaos.
Like it's just so incredibly real, and I can't talk enough about how good the writing for this film is, and it really makes me happy that it ended up winning Best Original Screenplay because it's awesome.
Dude,
Like
when they get into the car, they're like, "Turn on the heater. It's hot. It's cold in here." It's like, "Why is it? You need to get this heater. This is a 1984 car. You need to get the heater." And it just feels so genuine. They're like busting each other up. It's great, man.
Yeah. I also have to say I like the allure behind Lee's name that gets brought up before we find out why he's infamous
Yeah, they're like,
in this town.
that's the Lee Chandler.
Right. And when on a first watch you're kind of like, okay, what
What did he do?
what did he do? Why are people talking about him like this? And then you find out and you're like, dang.
Damn,
this-
I do not want to be Lee Chandler.
Yeah, this sucks. Like I can understand why this guy wants to be nobody.
Mhm.
Like in a place where no one knows him, you know. And then lastly for me, I think the acting is really good here. Everything feels so grounded and realistic, and I mean I haven't seen many of Casey Affleck's films, but I have to say, I mean from what I've saw, this is his best performance by far.
Oh.
And I mean Michelle Williams, even for how little she is in the film,
Good.
she kills it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just have to say, acting all around is really good here. Even Lucas Hedges, he kills it too. So
Yeah, Lucas Hedges, he was fantastic.
yeah, but that's about it for me.
Me as well, yeah.
All right, who wins this film?
Casey.
For me, it's Lucas.
Really?
Yeah. Lucas is the one I really connected with most. And I liked his dialogue was killing me, man.
Okay.
He was great.
Okay. Yeah, for me, Casey as well.
Yeah, I think Casey, just because I feel like he's the one I went through the most.
That's
Okay.
for sure, yeah.
All right. Any themes we got here?
Honestly, I just put like this movie just wants you to know that grief is real and
Yeah.
people go through it. Like
Yeah.
grief is
no,
real.
grief is the same, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
grieving is going to be so much different from yours.
This
Yeah.
is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of wrote something similar to your guys's as well, where it's just, that grief isn't a straight line, and it's dealt with in so many different ways.
Yeah.
You know, whether that be we look at grief from the aspect of Patrick or Lee or Randy
Mhm.
or even Joe.
Dude,
Like
I
having
didn't think about that.
what?
Putting grief in perspective into Randy's
Yeah.
eyes. And
Mhm.
I didn't think about, like, what she would...
She lost her children too.
Yeah.
And her spouse.
And her spouse. Crap, I didn't even think about that, too. Like,
well, yeah. I get the sense that she like for some reason I get the sense that she pushed him away and is like you murdered
You're the
my-"
reason.
Yeah, you murdered
Well,
our
yeah,
kids.
that's-
like I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Die. Like
Mhm.
I think that's why she's also so ashamed of what she told him
Mhm.
after
Yeah.
reflection.
dang.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, if that's it for the themes, what are we rating this? I'll start it off if you guys want.
Do it.
We give it a solid 8.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna give this one a 7.
Okay.
I give this one a 5.
All right. Well, that's it for Manchester by the Sea. So if you guys liked the episode, or if you enjoyed our conversation, or even if you stuck all the way to the end,
Thank you.
yes, thank you. We
Gracias.
appreciate you. Leave us a like and a comment if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to the channel, so that way you're updated with every episode that comes out. And hit the bell notification as well, so that way you're notified whenever those uploads happen, so you can be first to watch. And then if you're listening on the audio platforms, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, things of that nature, leave us a rate and review. Let us know what you're thinking. And when we say let us know what you're thinking, we're talking positive, negative, words of encouragement, areas of feedback, constructive criticisms, things like that. We really appreciate it whenever you guys are, interacting with the content, and it's nice to know that there are people out there that are liking what we're doing. And it's also nice to know that we could potentially be doing something different and maybe making the podcast better. So if you see something, let us know, and we'll try to make it happen as best we can. So,
All right.
Little bit of a change up for this next coming week. And it sucks we have to do this, but we are all so busy next week. We haven't missed an upload.
We're getting
Since we
pinched
started.
in all directions. We're getting pinched.
Yeah, we haven't missed a weekly upload since we have started this thing, which has been like 2 or 3 years now. 2 years?
2
It'll be 3 years in December.
Wow.
It's just wild.
Insane. We've uploaded consistently for almost 3 years. Every week.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We're gonna break it though.
Yep. Unfortunately, we have to skip next week. So,
Yeah.
if you're wondering where's the episode, what happened, we're all not available next week.
Not at all. Like no days.
Yeah, which sucks. We don't have enough time to watch the movie and then get together and record an episode on it. So, next week we're gonna be taking a break, and then we will come back next week with Nick's pick, which is going to be a trip down memory lane for me, man.
This is an absolute childhood classic for me. We're going to be talking about 2007 Transformers.
I'm just so excited.
Yes.
Dude.
This movie, I can't even tell you. I remember my grandma. We had stockings, and this was the movie that I got in my stocking. It was Transformers.
And were you hyped?
I was hyped. I freaking love this movie. And it's just interesting to see. I know it's not. Well, this is the start of the movies.
Yeah, there's like a franchise now.
Yeah, I never
It's
watched.
starting to become like the Fast and Furious franchise, bro.
Yeah, especially with the quality as well. And
Oh, shots are fired.
it's a little bit of a. I'm a little against the grain when it comes to some of the critics I listen to. The reason I chose it is because I went to watch Rise of the Beasts I think it was a couple weeks ago or whatever, and I just didn't love it as much as a lot of people did. It didn't capture that same feeling that the other ones did. This like grand adventure, meeting these new bots and all that stuff, and I just wanted to return to what I love.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is Transformers was like a phenomenon. Like when it came out, it was the summer blockbuster. Like everyone talked about it, and it was blowing my mind too because I'd never seen like a gritty take on like a childhood cartoon or anything like that. Like when I saw Transformers, it was on late at night, and I just knew Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, and that was it. And like I never kept on the lore or anything like that. So then when I saw this Michael Bay version come where there's it's like hyper realistic, there's explosions, all of this action, I was just like, Transformers is sick, dude. Like, this is tight. I like this. And it also came at the time too where I was like, Megan Fox.
Yeah.
Oh, she's hot, like as a middle school boy, and these movies, they played a big part of my childhood. And
dude, I'm so excited to hear Optimum Prime.
And I honestly think that they're gonna hold up CGI wise.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, 100%. Because, dude, I'm thinking of the scene when they're in the desert.
With the scorpion
The
bot?
scorpion bot?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's insane.
I don't know what to say. I like it, man.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all the times I watched it. I can recount every single scene, honestly. I'm really excited just to dive back into Sam Witwicky and Ladies Man 217 or whatever his little eBay.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
I'm excited to jump back in, man. It's been a long time.
Should be a classic.
I'm excited because the last Transformers movies I ever watched was Bumblebee.
Yeah.
And there's been quite a
same.
few that's came out since then.
Yeah.
We can talk about our history with the other movies and maybe a brief snapshot of what we thought about them, where we think they dropped in quality and all that stuff.
I don't remember.
I might even like if I got the free time just to go back in.
Go through.
Because one thing about this movie is that it's not streaming. That's one thing
Okay.
I want to say. It is not streaming anywhere that I saw. Well, maybe no. It was like TNT TV or something.
Sometimes
Okay.
Apple always has movies for rent.
I just
Okay.
know that if you want to watch this one, it is a little bit more challenging. TNT and TBS and True TV, it says,
All right.
with subscriptions. But if you want to watch Revenge of the Fallen, Max.
All right. I remember liking Revenge of the Fallen as well. The second one.
Apple has it for rent.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to watch it in high quality, rent that jaunt. If not, I'm going to go to my parents and get my copy of the DVD and watch
Mhm.
some pixels. So,
Some
yeah.
pixels.
Well, unfortunately, again, just to remind you guys, next week there won't be an upload. So tune in, not next week, but the week after that
Yes.
to hear what we have to say about Transformers. As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.